So these words here, amen, I say to you, you will weep and mourn while the world rejoices. You will grieve, but your grief will become joy. Right now, I'm going through a great book that I would definitely recommend to each of you, because it's probably right at your guys' reading level. It's called A Wrinkle in Time. It's by Madeline L'Engle. I don't know if you've ever read that before, but it's a good junior high book, good high school book. And this virtual neighborhood, if you remember this from the past, I did a lot more of like books for maybe younger audience. This one is actually more for your age. And it's kind of a scary book as well, but it kind of deals with what we heard about in our opening prayer and what we heard about in the gospel today. So in the opening prayer, it says something like this. It's talking about the Blessed Mother and asking her intercession that Christ's reign might be furthered. So we can think of it almost in terms of this battle line in which you have the forces of darkness and the forces of light. And Christ is the light. We hear in the Gospel of John, he's the light that shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it or not withstood it. And so there's this movement that's happening in which the light is pushing away the darkness. And so in this story of A Wrinkle in Time, you hear about this cosmic battle, about the forces of darkness, which really is about this sense of taking away our humanity, with this powerful temptation of saying there will be no more suffering, there'll be no more unhappiness. But the way in which this monster tries to do that is to say, well, we just need to annihilate everyone who's suffering, and then there's no more suffering. Or to annihilate, to in a sense, the monster says, put them to sleep, but permanently, all those who are unhappy, and then that way there's no more unhappiness, and we've taken care of the problem. And it's this powerful evil force that is trying to make everyone the same without any room for any kind of individuality. Saying we've done away with individualism. Now there's a danger in individualism where you're all kind of doing your own thing and there's no sense of community. But this monster moves the ball into this corridor of saying everyone needs to do exactly the same thing. They all need to bounce the ball in exactly the same way. And if someone bounces it a little different, then they're eliminated or punished because it gets in the way of proper order. But if you think about it, that's not humanity. That's more of a machine. But our hearts are not machines. They're not mechanical. There might be a mechanical aspect to them, but there's love. There's the beauty of God choosing to make us and make us all human beings, but each with their own set of gifts, their own set of strengths, and also their own set of weaknesses. Because when we discover our weaknesses, it actually opens us up to depend on others, to build community. If everyone was exactly the same, then there wouldn't be a need for relying on anyone else. And if everyone was the same, in the dangerous sort of way, then there could never be the opportunity to bear with another person's weaknesses, to experience compassion. The mystery of the cross, the mystery of Christianity, is that this grief gets transformed into joy. And it's because instead of following this monster from A Wrinkle in Time's way of doing things, to say, well, let's just get rid of anyone who's suffering and then we don't have to worry about them anymore. Christianity says, let's go and walk with the suffering, walk with the wounded, walk with the littlest members of our society, those most vulnerable, the babies, especially the unborn life, all of those with disabilities, all those with weaknesses in any way, and also the most elderly, who are also weak, that the monster of A Wrinkle in Time would say, they are a burden to society, so let's just remove them and we'll be happier. But the beautiful thing is when we encounter someone's grief, when we hurt for the hurts of others, then something happens in our heart. There's a way in which that mystery of suffering actually just helps us discover the human heart. There's something profound that when we enter into the experience of suffering, though it's not always easy, or it's never easy, it unlocks something deep within our heart in which we never knew we could love in that way. Just like a mother, when they hurt for the hurts of their child, they discover something deep within their heart that maybe they never realized was there. This profound capacity to love, that they knew that they loved their child, but they never knew that they loved their child that much. And it came through the encounter of suffering, the encounter of encountering another person's weakness. And it actually allowed them to love more. So if you would like to go more deeper into that kind of issue, it's a very deep book. It's a spooky book, it's a fun book, it's an adventurous book, but it deals with these beautiful experiences. What does it mean to be human? And what does it mean to be a fighter on the side of light, fighting against this force that we see in different ways manifest itself in our culture? The sense of crushing the uniqueness of each person, to make everyone the same, but in a way that leaves no room for love, no room for being able to help another person in their weaknesses, because you just remove the person who has weaknesses and everyone's happy. Well, everyone's not unhappy, but then, as one of the characters would say, nobody's ever happy. Do you see the difference there? Christianity says, enter into the grief, because it's in the midst of grief that you'll also find love. In the midst of suffering with the sufferings of others, you'll actually experience your human heart coming alive, because it's awakened in that moment. Just as Jesus's heart showed us perfect love right from the cross. Whereas there are many movements within our world that say, let's just get rid of suffering and get rid of unhappiness, but it never leaves the option to say, what's true happiness? There's a difference between get rid of the suffering, get rid of the unhappiness, but leave everyone in kind of a blah, almost like robots, in which there's no happiness. Christ came to take the grief and not cut it away and cut away our human heart with it, but actually he came to teach us how to enter into it and to discover the human heart that is beautiful, that God created and placed in you to be able to love and to feel hurt. But in order to go deeper into that hurt and experience a deeper joy through being able to be with another person in love in the midst of their hurts. So you might not have realized that a book like that, which is a sci-fi, fantasy, kind of like a Chronicles of Narnia, actually goes really deep and can be a very powerful way of discovering the gift of who you are and the way that God sees you, and not as the world sees you.